Good evening and welcome, all you hearty souls. Thank you for coming out to honor Cheryl Boone Isaacs. You will be happy you made it through that snow and slush. And I'm so impressed that we are almost as sold out as we are actually were sold out. My name's Juliet Goodfriend, and I'm the president of Bryn Mawr Film Institute. And whenever I introduce a show, I often ask, how many of you are members? Just raise your hand. I thought so. We have almost all of you are members. And I wanted to remind you, or maybe inform you, of how you've helped us get to where we are. Do you realize that we have 4,000 people coming through here every week, that we put on 250 movies a year, that we have 5,000 students in 39 courses? It goes on, such that we are now the favorite venue for many filmmakers who bring us great art that you all enjoy. And you enjoy it because you're a very influential audience. We have data to show that 70% of you have graduate degrees. That's almost unheard of. And you go to the movies an average of 28 times a year. That's 7 times what the most active, normal, or average viewers go. So you can see why we drive the cultural and economic markets to Bryn Mawr and the main line, where we love to live and learn. And we wish we could eliminate the snow and mess, but you made it through to live and learn tonight. So thank you so much. You know, when I started doing this, which is really more than 10 years ago, I got a mysterious message from a man in Hollywood who said that he could show me what the theater looked like in the 1970s. And when he would come the next time to Bryn Mawr, he'd bring some photos. Well, he came. And he's been here, I'd like to say he's been here ever since, almost. That's almost true. John Hersker, whom you'll meet in a moment, has been a remarkable member of our family, and just it's natural for him because he's 4th generation movie theater operator. His great-grandfather built an opera house in 1895 in Mahoney City, Pennsylvania. His grandfather built the Hersker movie theater in 1914 in Hazleton. John went on, the reason he had these photos of Bryn Mawr at the time it was a single-screen theater was because he was going to Haverford College and he got a job here. And that job developed into the managership of the Bryn Mawr Film Institute, Bryn Mawr Theater, or whatever. And beyond that, things went really wild for John. He ultimately became executive vice president of Paramount Pictures in charge of distribution, and then the CEO of the innovative new chain of theaters, Movie Taverns. And then he decided to move back to Philadelphia, much to our delight, and he is on our board now. He's been a very special friend. He's been mentor and admirer. He's been supportive critic and enthusiast. He's been encouraging angel and reassuring godfather, and he's been a friend also to Cheryl Boone Isaacs, whom he will now introduce.
My goodness. I'm going to do this so you can hear me. When I heard that the Bryn Mawr Theater, which I had been manager of and loved in my youth and continued to love, was going to be a health club, I was so sad and I was appalled. And then I heard that this angel, talk about angels, Juliet Goodfriend, was trying to take over the theater and turn it into the Bryn Mawr Film Institute. I was just so pleased, I can't tell you. And to see what she and her team, and she's the first to tell you it's a team effort, but she's the leader and the inspiration for that team, to see what they have accomplished here at the Bryn Mawr Film Institute, to not just save the theater, but to create this wonderful institution for the celebration, education of movies, and now with our expansion, is one of the great joys of my life. And thank you, Juliet, for all you've done in giving us the Bryn Mawr Film Institute. And now from one great lady to another. So I'd like you all to picture, if you would, this scene. It's a warm April night in California, and Hollywood's elite have gathered for the 34th annual Academy Awards. Bob Hope is the host. Fred Astaire, Joan Crawford, and Rock Hudson are among the presenters. And on this night, Andy Williams will perform for the very first time the song that will win the Oscar for Best Song that night, Moon River. Sophia Loren and Maximilian Schell win top acting honors. West Side Story is named Best Film of the Year. And 3,000 miles away in Springfield, Massachusetts, sits a young girl already in love with the movies, watching the Oscar cast. And as she sees actor Wendell Corey take the stage as president of the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, cannot imagine that one day she will be standing in his place. Truly, it has been an amazing journey from that living room in Springfield, Massachusetts, a journey that would include key studio positions at Paramount Pictures and New Line Cinema, and ultimately to the stage of the Academy Awards broadcast. Now, it was at Paramount, as Juliet mentioned, that I came to know as a colleague, and I'm very happy to say a friend, ultimately, of Cheryl Boone Isaacs, to see firsthand how she excelled in a very tough job with grace and integrity. And to watch her go on then to lead the organization, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, that is so crucial to this industry. Now, before we introduce Cheryl, since after all she has spent a life in movies, and we are the Bryn Mawr Film Institute, we thought we would begin with a short film. Please roll. Gentlemen, please welcome Ms. Cheryl Boone Isaacs. Thank you, microphone.
You're not filming yet, are you? Hello. Welcome, springtime. Right? It is now 6:45, after 6:45, and my understanding is spring began at 6:45. So,
The
welcome
snow is
springtime.
melting and the daffodils are popping as we speak.
There you go.
So Cheryl, maybe the best place to begin with some of the footage we just saw of your speech this year at the Academy Awards, which I would imagine most folks here have seen. You talked in that speech about freedom of expression for filmmakers.
Mm-hmm.
And why that message this year? Why was that important to you to use this incredible platform you had to talk about that?
Well, I thought it was very important this year. As you all know, there have been attempts to silence or persuade filmmakers to alter their visions or their films. Whether it's Charlie Hebdo in Paris, whether it's the Interview movie dealing with South Korea. Two of our films, foreign language nominated films, both Timbuktu and Leviathan, were criticized by governments. And I thought that we, the Academy, needed to make a statement about the fact that creative rights, artist rights, were of importance, and that it was our responsibility, all of us in the arts, whatever arts, was to make sure that we uphold the freedom of expression anywhere in the world. So that was pretty much it.
Yeah. And what goes into that process? I assume everything related to that broadcast, which is so important and so anticipated, is planned. Was that something that you, as the Board of Governors, discussed? Is this something that you kind of gauged the feeling of in the Academy, or that was a personal message for you?
Personal.
Yeah.
I've been the president now. I'm in the middle of my second year, and so it's been 2 telecasts for me. The first one, last year, I spoke a little bit, because I had 70 seconds, to talk about the Academy, because most people do not know much about the Academy other than our evening out, as I call the Oscars. You know, our one night to show ourselves. So that was the intention last year. This year, I didn't think this was right to have another Cell moment. And because of all the activities around the world, I felt strongly that we needed to address it without hitting anybody on the head. You know, really a clean, crisp message. And I will tell you the speech was a little longer. Then I got an email from the producer saying, it's a little long. Which is all good, because then you get to really trim away the extra fat that you didn't really need anyway, to get it down to something that's clear. And it was received very well, so that's good. It's a good thing.
So you mentioned all the different things the Academy does. Talk about that a little bit, because most people do associate it with the awards,
Yes.
but there's a lot more to it, isn't
And
there?
we're very happy that you do. Because what it is an evening of recognition of talent. So that is important. And like I said in this speech, which is my mantra, if you will, that the Academy preserves the past, honors the present, and helps to shape the future of the motion picture business. And by saying that, it's easy then for me to talk about what we do. With regard to preserving the past, we have always been very active in archiving and preserving film throughout its history. So much so that we have stacks and stacks of materials. And you know, for a while, Hollywood, shame Hollywood, was not very caring about its past. And luckily that has all turned around. And we're very, very happy for that. There's a dedicated crew, staff that are so knowledgeable and have been working diligently archiving footage. We also have a library, the Margaret Herrick Library, that is the #1 library in the world renowned, if you will, for materials. I call them flat. I think they do too, or two-dimensional materials relating to the motion picture business throughout our history in particular, as well as prior. So in the present is pretty much the Oscar telecast. However, we do have presentations and exhibitions now that draw attention to artists, filmmakers, and their films. That is a constant for us. And with technology, we're discussing how to get a lot of these programs, either travel them, which is a little bit of expense, but travel them and or start filming them. You know, there's a lot that we're discussing on how to broaden our audience, if you will, for all that we do, because our 7,000 members, as you are already aware, are truly the best and the brightest, pretty much, and men and women at the top of their field, and their knowledge and expertise should be enjoyed by more people than actually physically, be in Los Angeles. And for the future, we have the Academy Museum of Motion Pictures that we will start construction very soon. It is housed in the historic May Company building in Los Angeles, if any of you have been to Los Angeles, on the LACMA campus at the corner of Fairfax and Wilshire. And one thing I think is exciting is this historic building was built in 1939, which many people do believe is the golden year of motion pictures. I think it's kind of cool. And we are scheduled, for all of you who've been in construction, the end of 2017. And there we will have our public face, if you will, 365 days a year, you know, and not just one evening. And we will be able to share our knowledge of our members and of our history to as many people as possible, both as visitors to the physical space, as well as these ideas that we have of how to broadcast, if you will, our good fortune to folks around the country as well as around the world.
You mentioned the membership, and there's always a lot of talk and some misinformation about membership in the Academy, especially around the time of the nominations, and there has been again this year. Talk a little bit about how one becomes a member of the Academy and how the membership is structured.
Well, the Academy, as I said, is made up of about 7,000 people. There are 17 branches, and they represent all the different skill sets and departments that it actually takes to make a motion picture, market or distribute a film. So, such areas, of course, as actors and directors and producers and editors and cinematographers and hair and makeup and sound and public relations, executive branch, visual effects, animation, short films, and the list goes on. And for you to know that for nominations, it is each branch that nominates, that votes for the nominations. So those lucky enough to be nominated in any category are selected by their branch, therefore actors for actors and cinematographers for cinematographers, editors for editors. And that's the nomination process. For the Oscar statuette, actually, then the entire membership votes.
And so that explains how you can have, in the days when there were only 5 Best Picture nominees,
right,
and the 5 director nominees didn't necessarily correspond, and people would say, how could that be?
Exactly.
They were really
right.
nominated by 2 different groups because the directors nominated the directors.
That's right.
But the Academy as a whole nominated the pictures.
That is correct.
And
Yes.
then now we have more than 5 Best Picture nominees. How did
Yes,
that
we
come
do.
about?
Well, and I'm trying to remember exactly when, I just remember who was president, but the discussion of moving from 5 to 10. And that was a 2-year experiment. And I say experiment because we quite often come up with interesting ideas of shifting and changing our process in different ways, all the ways. And so we'll try something, and if it works, that's great, and if it doesn't, there's nothing that's really in cement. And it was received well. However, most traditionalists wanted to go right back to 5. So every year the discussion of how many is kind of floats up to the top. And then I think it was about 4 or 5 years ago, the leadership thought it would be a wonderful idea to have that number somewhere between 5 and 10. So the morning of the nominations, no one really knows when it's going to stop, and that it can create a bit more excitement and will also allow a more diverse showing of films. And so that's been in effect. I think it's about 5 years now, and that's where it is today.
And in the early days of the Academy, there were 10 Best Picture
There were
nominees.
10, that's exactly
and then it
right.
later was changed to 5. And
Yes, I think one key point here is that things always change.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, originally there were far fewer awards, far fewer categories, weren't there?
Yes, yes. It has grown steadily. In the 22 years I've been on the board, we have added quite a few branches. Last year it was casting directors and a full branch for hair and makeup, and also for, I'm trying to think, there was one, where am I? Production designers, yes.
And the category of Best Animated Film was relatively recent.
Yes,
too, wasn't it?
and the awarding of Best Animated Film is pretty new as well. Yeah.
You mentioned the nominations.
Yes.
And that's one of your responsibilities as Academy President, to read those nominations. What is it, 5 o'clock in the morning at LA time, 5:30?
Yes, 5:30 in the morning.
And this year you did it with Chris Pine?
I did it with Chris Pine.
Yeah,
I
talk
like to
about
have
that a
those
little
young,
bit.
cute boys. I had Chris Hemsworth last year and Chris Pine this year. It makes me look young.
The nominations, like the awards, are tabulated by Price Waterhouse, right?
Yes,
The
sir.
accounting firm.
Yes.
So when do you, those nominations that you and Chris Pine read, when did you actually see them for the first time?
Probably about 3 o'clock. And that
That's 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
Yes,
yeah.
3 a.m.
And just kind of enough time, about 3:30, because you have to do the hair and the makeup. And you get the packet, and then you start looking at these names. And then we have I mean, especially out of our library, I just can't tell you. The staff at the Academy is so brilliant. I jokingly say we don't have to go to IMDb. I just yell it out. And at least 10 or 12 people will give you an answer in an instant. They are so knowledgeable, and there's always a few that are very helpful with the correct names from filmmakers from around the world. Because sometimes you look and you go, oh, okay. And so you have to practice a little bit and hope. Because, this is a big day for many people. They've worked very, very hard for years, to bring their dream to life. And this is a big moment. Are they going to get nominated? Are they going to get recognized for their talent? So you don't want them to remember, and they said my name wrong. So, you put a lot of effort into.
And then the production of the actual show is the responsibility of producers who change from year to year. Is that right? Yes.
The producers, up until now anyway, have been selected by the president. Mm-hmm. And this year was Neil Marin and Craig Zayden. This was their third year producing for us. And I was happy because working with them last year. And as you can imagine, the challenge of putting on this live show is so massive. And yes, the Super Bowl happens to get a few more people than we do. But truthfully, everybody, mostly, I shouldn't say everybody, it's probably not true anymore, but you watch the Super Bowl to watch a game, right? And you have the commercials, and but a game. And you don't know who's going to win, but it is a sport that you pretty much, and you hope that the teams match up pretty well, and boy did they this year, right? Anybody like the Super Bowl? That was great. Anyway, and so for this show, the biggest challenge, I would say, is that you don't know what films you're working with. You don't know who is nominated until 6 weeks beforehand. Mm-hmm. So you have to start months in advance, and you have to create structure for the show. What are the sort of the big moments, and you break it down into acts and how it flows. You have to give out 24 awards. How are you going to spread them out? But what you don't know, and truthfully, no one knows till that envelope is opened, except for Price Waterhouse, and only 2 people there actually know how that's going to work. You don't know who is going to run up on the stage, and you don't know what they're going to say. You have begged, pleaded to keep it to 45 seconds. But if you watch the show this year, I got my 15 minutes. I'm going to take my 15 minutes, and which is fine because it is a surprise. Do you know that those little moments are a surprise? But you do have to build a structure. Music on the show. There are 5 songs nominated, and some years, some of them are okay, and they're terrific, but maybe not a punch or and it's up to the discretion of the producers to decide how they are going to showcase songs. And we just love it when we have really great talent associated with that. And Craig and Neil, for their 3 years, also like to bring a bit of the past. Last year, they celebrated the 75th anniversary of Wizard of Oz. Yellow Brick Road. The Wizard of Oz, and they said they wanted to do a segment apiece with that, and I thought, oh, really? Are we going to have, the Yellow Brick Road? I mean, you've seen this 9,000 times, how's it going to be fresh? So my only comment really was, you got to bring it forward. I'm very big on, taking this, and there's a reason why we're celebrating 75 years, because people love it. But what can be fresh and new about it? And they came back with a great idea, and that was to have Pink perform the song. And so it was fresh and new, and young folks, thought that was really exciting, and that was great for us. And this year, it's the 50th anniversary of Sound of Music. So again, I thought the hills aren't going to be alive twirling, right? And not that there's anything wrong with that. It's just that you've seen it so much. So we need to be a little new and fresh. And of course, they came up with the freshest, and that was Lady Gaga. And much of the surprise of many people they don't realize and know that Lady Gaga is a classically trained musician, singer and
Who'd have
pianist.
thought?
Exactly, and then now she's a millionaire because she's Lady Gaga. But and I actually knew that, so they were happy that I actually knew that, and didn't have to educate me a little on that one. And that was a hit of the show.
And having Julie Andrews there too was such a nice
wasn't that wonderful?
touch.
Yeah. That was really great. So you try to build those sorts of moments if you can. Yeah.
So obviously Lady Gaga brought a lot to the Oscar cast
Yes.
in terms of, as you say, bringing it forward and attracting younger viewers and all the rest. But I would imagine it's also for somebody like Lady Gaga, who now is recording the American Songbook.
That's right.
Some of you may have seen her with Tony Bennett on the
Right.
Grammys and so on. That's a great opportunity for her too, isn't it?
Big time. This was a win-win on two sides here.
So you have performers, I would imagine, who would love to be able to get a slot on the Oscars, so to speak.
Yes.
To perform.
Yes, to perform.
To perform.
Actors is not necessarily as easier as performers. Yeah, and we had quite a few this year, and certainly Glory from Selma. When the production designer said he was going to create the bridge, I'm like, oh, it's going to be so good, and it was.
Yeah.
And it was, to recreate the bridge. It was such a wonderful moment. And Common and John Legend had sung the song on Grammys, and I was really not happy, and neither were the producers. Mm-hmm. Because we like it, only on the Oscars is what we like to say. And they had already performed it. Mm-hmm. So we had to, and said to them, this has got you, I don't care how good it was on the Grammys, it's got to be better. It's just got to be better. So, and I think it was. And it was good on the Grammys too, right? Because I was there, but way better. And Tim McGraw, which brought in another audience, country western. Yeah. And Adam Levine. I was very happy about that. When I first saw the movie, I thought, oh, please, 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 please. that the song would be nominated, and it was. Very happy.
Do you ever worry, this may seem a little silly, but you talked about nobody knowing who the winners are.
Yes.
And you've asked these actors, performers, to come up and grant the awards. Do you ever worry that somebody might be mischievous or sort of out of it or something and read the wrong name or not read what's on the card and so on? Do you worry about the people taking it in a professional way or doing it in a professional way?
Well,
and if there's somebody that you wouldn't come on for that reason, feel free to
without
tell
naming
us the
them.
person. Yeah.
Well, now I'm going to worry about it. Don't let that get out, because then you can't take it back, right? Have never really thought about that. And yeah, you do kind of think a little bit. Well, also just how it marries, and actors are marvelous. Some of them are a little picky, and so some don't want to announce with another person. Some don't care. Some, But
they don't want to announce.
And with someone, sometimes there's two people, sometimes there's just one.
Oh, I see. They want to either appear alone or a
some
couple.
do, some don't. Yeah. It's an interesting business.
I bet it is.
But I have to say, in the last couple of years, we have found that there have been more that have volunteered, have actually had their people call and say they want to be on the show. And about 10 years ago, that wasn't the case. So I find those little things very encouraging, that they want to be part of this process. I think that's great. And we try to mix it up and certainly bring in younger actors for every reason in the world, for the audience and also for the fact that we want to cultivate young Hollywood. Because, like I say, I want my grandchildren to come running to me one day and say, Grandma, guess what? I just got into the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. So unless we keep promoting that and help grow the next generations, then it's going to go away. That's our responsibility.
But it's not easy to get into the Academy.
No.
Most of the industry are not members of the Academy.
Oh, no.
What are the criteria?
Well, the criteria is set by each individual branch, because I wouldn't have a clue on what would make a terrific cinematographer or an editor. So that is the criteria. We do tend to be a little older because of so many people in the industry having to work so long to get to a certain level of skill and movement and the improvement of their skill and recognition from their peers also. However, a lot has changed in history and in the business. Not quite fast enough, I would say, but changing. And so it actually is younger, a little younger, especially in the actors branch, quite a bit younger. And I think that's a great sign. Younger actors want to become members more now than they were, I would say, 10 or 15 years ago. So it's going to take a little bit of time to get those numbers up for younger, for more diverse, for women. And that also is, I think, the responsibility and duty of our industry as a whole, to nurture new talent and diverse talent, and to provide more job opportunities and promotions, and allow people who have talent to be able to exercise that, to be able to grow, to be able to learn. Because it benefits all of us, and certainly the changing world is upon us. It really is. And there are so many talented people and so many different stories to be told that are really interesting and fascinating, In the last number of years, there has been more emphasis on documentaries than there used to be, because it's a terrific form to tell a story, to educate, to take you on a ride that you haven't been on. And it's our responsibility to broaden our universe, and also to reflect the audience that we serve. It's very important for all of us.
So let's talk a little bit about how you got started on this path. And I talked at the beginning about your love of movies as a little girl. But you didn't necessarily know then, or even in the years that followed immediately, that you would end up in the film business. Tell us about that.
Well, as you said, I was born and raised in Springfield, Massachusetts. Loved it. Loved Springfield. Loved my family. Loved my parents. Very happy. Have no.
Your dad was a
My dad is a
postmaster?
postal worker. Worked in the post office. I'm the youngest of four. And the two oldest, one's 11 and a half, the other's 13 years older. So by the time I was 5, at least one had gone off to college, and then the other. And so Dad, worked a number of jobs, actually, because he had 2 kids in college at one time and then 2 at home. We loved film, and we loved television, just pretty normal kind of stuff. My brother was 11 and a half years older that I did mention here. He went to Brandeis early because he graduated in 1960, so early Brandeis, and he wanted to be in the film business. And you can imagine how foreign that must have been for an African-American family in Western Massachusetts to want to go in the film business. Pretty foreign and wide out there. But he was just fabulous and brilliant and wonderful. And he persevered and got a position at United Artists, actually. So in that year, that year before, when I was young, I would go to visit him in New York. And he would put me in the theater. And I'd sit in the back, he'd go, be quiet, don't say a word, don't speak, just nothing, no food, nothing, just sit there and whatever is going to be on the screen you're going to watch. So I loved going in the summertime and visiting for a week and sitting and watching these movies in the theater. And it was very, very Mad Men, because we're talking the mid-'60s. Very Mad Men. That was so cool and hip and wonderful. So I never personally thought that I would go in the film business because he was too cool, hip, and happening. It wasn't even a thing of, at that time, I can't do it. It just didn't enter my brain. Went to Whittier College, wanted to, thought, work in government. And that was going to be my path, degree in political science. And when I graduated, and I did spend, which was great for me, spend my junior year at the University of Copenhagen, which in '69 was amazing, you know, to be sort of thrown into a whole, especially in '69, right, in a whole other environment. And these things just kept opening my mind, you know, which was very helpful. Graduated from Whittier, decided I wasn't going to pursue education anymore. I needed a breather. I needed a break. I didn't want to be in a classroom. Had a few odd jobs, including, and I love saying this, I was a stewardess. And one of my students last semester, a young lady who was a little worried about what she was going to do, you know, when she graduated in May, and her mother was a little concerned. And when I told her this story, then she went home and said to her mother, "Don't worry, Cheryl was a stewardess." That was really funny. I'll be fine, and I keep saying to them all, "You'll be fine. I'm telling you, you'll be fine." But I wanted to travel, and I'd already done the backpack thing, and I didn't want to do the backpack thing anymore. So that's what I did, and I flew for Pan American, so I got to see most of the world, and I love that, you know. And after that, I still bounced around with a few other jobs, living in San Francisco, and thought at 25, 26, I guess, all right, this is a waste. What are you doing? You know, you're just kind of hiding out. So a lot of crying and what am I doing in my life? And, you know, whatever, you know, all that kind of goes on. I thought, nope, I really like films. And I, you know, through this entire time had always gone to film. Oh, and a little back up a second there, that 3 months, and I didn't realize till you told me it was actually May 1st in San Francisco before I went to LA to start my career. I went to this screening at the North Point Theater on a Saturday morning at 10 o'clock with my brother, who then was president of marketing and distribution for 20th Century Fox. And they had this movie that they were very excited about. And we were going to see this movie on Saturday at 10 o'clock in the morning. And the movie happened to be Star Wars. And that was by far the best experience in a movie theater ever. Because other than the Fox executives, none of us knew this, you know, about this movie. You know, it's not like today. And I have to tell you, when the Millennium Falcon goes across the screen in the opening, and then the mothership is, by the time it got halfway across the screen, everybody in this 1,100-seat theater was on their feet screaming at the top of our lungs. It was so great, right? So it's probably the last that made me then get in a car 3 months later and tootle on down to LA. And I was very, very fortunate, after knocking on quite a few doors, to get a starting position as a publicist, working on this other movie, never heard of it in my life, and why would I, called Close Encounters of the Third Kind. So that was my first movie. Do you want to like go back a little bit for that other story?
And that was the, well, I know that through your
Somewhere.
brother Ashley, who
Yes.
was in the film industry,
Yes.
you got exposed to a lot of things that most people wouldn't get exposed to, and that's
Sure.
how you and Steve McQueen became really good friends, wasn't
Me
it?
and Stevie B.
Tell us
that's-
about your your close encounter with
My
Steve
close
McQueen.
encounter with Steve McQueen. Yes, I was. Where was I? Was in Whittier, and Ashley was working, and so he would do things, you know, send you to a set. My sister and I visited this set, you know, in Hollywood, you know, going to see a movie being filmed, you know. Again, stand in the back, shut up, don't speak, you know, be quiet, you know, little mice. Okay, stand in the back. So we did, and we're watching this movie being filmed with this woman.
Do you remember the film?
I sure do. I'm just trying to, like, and they were playing chess.
Oh,
Okay.
yes.
They're playing chess way over here.
You're teasing it.
Little teaser. I'm teasing. The Thomas Crown Affair. And we're standing over here and, you know, way over here. And, you know, they break, you know, they film, they break, they film, they break. And at one break, I look up and this man, and you know which man, is walking towards us. Oh my God, you know, it's Steve McQueen. You know, Steve McQueen is walking towards us. And there was, you know, you look around going, well, you know, is he going to go to the men's room? Is he going to his trailer? Where's he going? No, straight at us. And I thought, oh my God. And I stopped. I literally stopped breathing. I don't know how I stood up because I really stopped breathing. And he came over and he introduced himself, you know, and I still didn't speak. So my sister had to tell him what my name was. And I was absolutely frozen. And he said, do you all know what the movie is about? And I was even afraid to look at him. It was so, you know, you've never been that close to anybody like this. And he was just so sweet, and he knew I was dying. And so he explained the story, and he actually put his arm around me. And I still didn't speak. And then he had to go back and film it. And I was, you know that Warner Brothers cartoon with the little frog? How
Michigan
I love you,
Tea
how
Frog.
I love you.
Yeah.
That was me. The minute we walked outside, oh my God, did you see that? That was Steve McQueen. You know, Stevie and I are best friends. I mean, I wouldn't stop talking. My sister was like, oh my God. You know, and I wasn't going to wash.
You got your voice back.
Oh, big time. And I wasn't going to wash my hands, my hair, the clothes. I mean, I was just crazy.
So through Ashley, you meet Steve McQueen and you have all these wonderful experiences.
Yes.
But Ashley really wasn't interested in helping you get a career in the industry, was he?
No, and I wanna you know, set this correctly because there are a lot I didn't know. He said, you know, I'm not going to help you, and we were very close, and I said, and not hurtfully, I said that's okay because I want to see if I can do it myself. But he did help me. He did help me because he had such a great reputation. And certainly, diversity didn't really exist, you know, except for some actors, you know, a few actors and one or two filmmakers, but very few. And certainly not in the executive suites. So if I went out, you know, to a job interview, and my name was Cheryl Boone, they would say, are you related to Ashley Boone? Mm-hmm. So in that way, he absolutely helped me. And then once I got rolling and in the business, boy, was I happy he didn't, because so often bosses would help, which was, you know, there's nothing wrong with it, but for me, that's not what I wanted, would say, I got their son a job, I got their wife a job, and I was very happy. I was just, you know, that was just for me, that wasn't, you know, an issue, especially being a minority, do you know? I just felt I had to do it on my own.
But then in a few years after you were junior publicist for
Yes.
Close Encounters and you started working for production companies and so on, his desire not to be the reason for your advancement was put to a test, wasn't it?
Yes, yet again.
Tell that story.
Years later, I was working at a small production company called Melvin Simon Productions. And maybe you knew some of the movies like Love at First Bite. Anyone? Yes? Okay.
George
I love
Hamilton?
this audience with
Yeah.
George Hamilton. Love George. We had so much fun. He's a great dancer. We used to dance all the time. That was fun. And The Right Stuff, which was the first film I ever worked on for an Academy campaign. But we made our money, we really made our money with Porky's.
Yeah. And that was nominated for Best Picture, wasn't it? Do I have
Yeah, right. That's still one of the funniest movies ever. I
got to say, earlier
Yes.
today, Cheryl was talking to students at Bryn Mawr College, and a lot of these film references
Yeah.
landed
Yeah,
like
see,
a
I'm
thud.
so happy that
So
they're
we're so
like,
glad to have a receptive audience here at Bryn Mawr Film Institute.
Right, exactly.
That
It's
knows
so
the right
true.
stuff, and Porky.
And Porky's, right. So I got a call from a colleague, you know, a boss though up here, who said, hey, you want to come over to the Lad Company? I thought, you know, it was a party or something, because my brother Ashley was at the Lad Company, head of marketing distribution, and this production company was headed by Alan Ladd Jr., and they had all worked together at 20th Century Fox, and when they had that blow up, they started the Ladd Company, okay, and that group of 5-6 men all went to work together. So anyway, this gentleman's name was Bob, and I said, oh yeah, you know, it's happening, something happened. No, do you want to come work here? And I said, are you kidding me? I mean, first of all, I mean, it's great opportunity. And he said, no, I want you to come work. And I said, does Ashley know? And he said, yes, he knows. So what happened is that Alan Ladd Jr., called Ashley into his office with Bob. This is the story I was told, and asked Ashley if he was an equal opportunity employer. And he thought maybe he was in trouble for something, right? And he's like, of course, what are you talking about? Of course I am. And they said, great, we want to hire Cheryl.
And what could he do?
And he couldn't do anything. But I was scared the heck out of me, I have to say. Luckily, he left within 3 months to become president of Columbia Pictures. So we only got to work together for 3 months.
Now, you mentioned a couple times Oscar campaigns.
Yes.
And something a lot of people aren't aware of, I think, is that just as films are, when they're released in theaters, are marketed to the general public, there's an element of marketing that goes on to Academy voters. And you see it now as Academy president, but you were also part of the process, working for Paramount and New Line and as a consultant. Talk about a little that, if you would, the campaigns that go on first to get nominations and then to get awards.
It's become this cottage industry, you know. We at the Academy are not that excited about it. We're excited about the fact that people are excited about movies and that there's a lot of conversation. But, excuse me, it's a little out of hand, I would say, at this point. And it really actually now a season. It's the award season. And it starts, my nose is really stuffing up here, sorry, about December 1st. And it is a combination of a number of things, starting with critics. Oh, if I blow my nose, excuse me, it'll be, thank you. Thank you. And actually starts with critics groups, actually, because they're the 10 best. There's a whole discussion also around the time of film festivals. And through the years, that's kind of grown quite a bit, especially actually starting in September with Telluride Film Festival, with the Toronto Film Festival, with Venice Film Festival. And so the festivals have sort of gotten in this strategy, if you will, of award season. So the big kahuna, as you might say, is the Oscars. However, there's the SAG Awards, there's the Directors Guild.
Screen Actors Guild.
Screen Actors Guild, Directors Guild, Producers Guild, BAFTA, Golden Globes, Critics' Choice. I mean, it's just really blossomed to the point that most of us feel fatigued. And the actors, they really and truly cannot stand it. And I don't blame them, because that's not really what they signed on to do. You know, they did their job. Excuse me. They did their job, right? And now they're flown all over the country to appear on this show, that show. It's really a little wacky, but there is a lot of skill to it, putting on a campaign. And as the months go by and award shows happen and winners are announced, it really starts to sort of close. And it's like horses in a way going around a track. They all start all the way across, and then all of a sudden they start. And that's just a few, to the finish line. And for the Oscar, for the campaign for the Oscar, it's really a twofold. The first phase is all movies. Your competition is all movies. And that, that gets narrowed down a lot based off of critic reaction, box office in some ways. Certainly a high box office success of an independent film shows a big strength. I'm not saying that all big budgeted films that earn big box office are Academy. You see that more box office with the independent films because it has definitely struck a note, right? And so that comes into play. There's so many different elements, but you're going against a wide range of competition in all of the areas. And then when the nominations come out, then you know exactly who your competition is. And it really is fascinating. One thing I've always loved, which is why I loved marketing movies, is strategies. You know, I love figuring out the strategy of something, right, to get to a finish line.
So
That's
when
fun.
when we were at Paramount, we had Forrest Gump, and it was nominated for Best Picture. What was the strategy there? Because Pulp Fiction was also up that year, and that was a very highly thought of film. And so, what would you do on the publicity side to try to highlight the merits of Forrest Gump, maybe implicitly as opposed to Pulp Fiction?
Well, that was a big competition that year, and I had no idea who was going to win. And it was definitely between the two of us. I mean, and all the movies are fantastic. I don't mean to say that, but so much attention was on the two movies, and the critics across the board favored Pulp Fiction. However, we knew that we had a movie that really resonated with people. And we knew if you broke it down, which you do when you're putting together this kind of campaign, into the different branches, into the different skill sets of the cinematographer and the set design and the editor. And for me, that's always been the focus of a campaign for an Oscar, is not just the movie. You know, the movie is great and wonderful, then it's made up of these parts. And how great are these parts? And how can you help those men and women who have done such a brilliant job in these different areas excel, get attention, and possibly be recognized by their own peers outside of the Academy. So the editor maybe gets the Best Editor Award out of their Editors Guild, and the best. That was the first year Forrest Gump for SAG, Screen Actors Guild. So I said to my fabulous staff, because it's always a team of great people that work together, and when you do, and you hum along great together, that's when it works. That's totally, because nobody ever does it on their own. And I said, okay, Screen Actors Guild is going to start giving out awards. So we've got to get them all, guys. We got to get the ensemble, got to get the best actor. That's your job. That is your job today, is to get that. And knowing that the Academy, with its branches, the largest branch by far is the Actors branch. So,
Which is one reason the SAG Awards are such a good indicator.
that is a
of the
very
Academy
big
Awards.
indicator.
Yeah.
Absolutely, because there are so many.
And when you got the
Crossover.
SAG Awards on King's Speech, you knew you.
I knew. And I had thought, you know, when those nominations came out, and that year it was Against Social Network, a brilliant movie, a fabulous movie. But I wasn't working on that movie. So, so therefore, the one I'm working on, you know, you got to bring it home. And when they were limited in their recognition in the acting category, and of course, King's Speech was not. And I said to Harvey, "Okay, now we got it, man. We don't let up now." That'll help tremendously.
We're going to take questions here from the audience. And I
Only
just
if the
want-
light's off, because I
yes,
can't see
when the
anybody.
lights come up here. But I just wanted to ask you before we do that, because as you talk about the challenge of breaking into the film industry and how you and Ashley both made the decision for you
What
to
a
go it
difference,
alone, did you feel at all, and obviously it's very hard to get to the position you're in the industry, did you feel that there were barriers put in your path because of the fact that you're an African-American woman? We mentioned that you're the first African-American president of the Academy, only the third woman. Does anybody know who the other two women were, by the way? Betty Davis. Faye Kaner,
Hey,
that's
who
right,
said
yeah.
that? Oh, of course, Carrie did.
Yeah. But how have you dealt with that in your career?
Well, I am asked quite often, what does it feel? How would it feel like to be the first African American president, female president of the Academy? And I always, it's just a crazy question to me, because I always say, well, I've always been an African American female, so I have no, you know, it's like, okay, so if you ask me what's it like to be president of the Academy, then I can give that answer. But, you know, I find that an odd thing. Were there barriers? I'm not sure I would, well, yeah, there were some people that actually put them up. But were there barriers? Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, we could spend another couple of hours on that one. And some incredibly deliberate. Incredibly deliberate. And, but you know, you just can't let that get in your way. You just can't, you know. And there will always be those who do not wish you well. There will always be those that are jealous. And you know, that's actually not my problem. It took me a while to figure that out, that it's not my problem, you know. Mm-hmm. It's their problem. And you know, every once in a while I would hire somebody thinking that I made a good hire, and it wouldn't take me too long to figure out that they were having an absolute problem with being told what to do by a black female. Woo! And you kind of grow up with this so you can spot it in a heartbeat. And it's like, oh, okay, there's going to be a problem here. And usually they leave. You know, they leave. But sure.
Did advice your parents have given you? I know how much you got from your upbringing. Did that help you in those situations?
Well, my mother had this saying all the time, and I'm sure many of you heard this: just get above it. Right? Just get above it. And some days you think, I can't, and why are they doing this? And, you know, but you have to figure out a way. I mean, that's what I was telling the students today. You have to figure a way. And another thing, which takes a while to learn, is not giving your power away, and, you know, to other people. And that it takes, it's a constant, it still goes on. It's not like everybody in the academy is all excited about me leading the academy, you know. But I don't think it's that is based on race or gender, you know. It could be other things. I'm not a filmmaker. There are, you know, people who think that the president of the academy should be a filmmaker. That's fine. That's an opinion. That's cool. Not now.
Maybe next time.
Maybe next time.
Okay, so let's take some questions. We have Valerie there's got a microphone.
That one. Okay, let's see.
Who's got questions?
No one.
Raise your hands.
Okay.
You got one?
Here we go.
My friend who
Wait, one
I have
second.
a
Here we
microphone
go.
for you. Hold on one second.
Here he comes.
my friend who won the Bonner.
The Bonner boy.
Yeah, the Bonner boy. I'm not really sure what all that means. He did send me this press release right before the ceremony about it, and I guess he thought I understood what the Bonner Award was. And actually, I kind of, you know, misread it and dropped an N. I said, "You get an award for that?"
I can understand why you're friends with Tad now.
Yes. Yeah. So, but I did read about it, but I'm not sure
What it is?
all of it is. What it says, service to Academy and
Right.
and everything. I don't know whether he
Right.
stays after and cleans offices or what. You know.
No.
Are there
I
other-
know you don't.
Are there
Yes.
other awards we should know
Yes,
about?
yes. I mean, obviously, you know, the statuette, the Oscar is the one everybody knows, and we give out 24 that night, and 2 weeks prior, we have a ceremony for SciTech. We have the SciTech Awards, Science and Technical Awards, where what I call them, the geniuses show up, and they talk about their incredible work that they do. And I love this evening. I always love this evening because the enthusiasm in the room is just insane. It's so great because here are scientists and engineers, you know, who are all dressed up to this, you know, fancy event, and they're so excited. There's such great energy in the room, even if I don't know what they're talking about, and their contributions, and we give out certificates of mainly to companies that have developed product. Machines, if you know, it's kind of crass in a way, but ways to help the filmmaker develop and express, show their film, you know, in so many different ways, you know, whether it's the smoke machine, or we talked about the Steadicam, right, the Steadicam theater, you know, in the lenses, I mean, yes, a day for night filter, I mean, there's so many aspects of science and technology that are so important to this process. And that evening is a wonderful evening that we give out certificates, and we acknowledge individuals, members of the Academy, who have been of service to the Academy in many different ways in the area of science and technology and physical production. And your friend, Tad Marburg, certainly fit that, that description very well. Yeah.
Yes.
Hi, I'm actually a female that works in the film industry, I'm a production coordinator, and I wanted to see, we have, at our company, we have a women's interactive network that they started up to try and boost the women, because there's not many of us in our business. And I wanted to see if you had any advice for women or encouragement that you took to heart when you were kind of going up the ladder.
I've had a lot of encouragement and a lot of mentors, and I must say mostly men. And it was probably mostly men because in the workplace there were mostly men, older men. Not to say women did not. I don't. That's not it. But through my career, there have been more and more women in higher positions. Certainly, one of our favorite, John and my favorite, Sherry Lansing, if any of you have ever heard of the very famous Sherry Lansing, who was chairman of Paramount Pictures while John and I worked there. And a major role model, we would say, for both of us.
Yes.
By far, you know, to be that great an executive. Fabulous, fabulous. Encouragement for women and for people of color. I think one of the toughest thing is knowing that there are opportunities and knowing how to pursue in order to get positions. We all in the film business have to do a much better job of educating people of all ages, colors, race, to opportunities and possibilities in our industry. I say to students all the time, next time you go to the movies, stay in your seat and watch that 10-minute crawl of all the people at the end and all the different jobs, and realize that there are so many different ways to participate in this medium. And you just have to do your homework. We have to do a better job of educating you to what is out there and available so that you can learn and grow and become a part of this. Looking at those crawls at the end, next time you think, oh my God, how come that movie would cost $200 million? Those actors just make way too much money. Think about that 1,000 people who have been able to raise their families, send their kids to school, buy a house, because they have worked for the last 6 months, possibly 2 years, getting a salary. We need to be very proud of all of those folks, because every last one of them, which is why the credits are so long now compared to, you know, movies of the 40s. 2 seconds. The recognition of the talent that they brought.
I was glad you mentioned the Academy promoting diversity, and I'm in college. I'm trying to be a filmmaker, and I'm looking up to someone like Ava DuVernay.
Oh God, Ava is a force.
And
fabulous force.
This year, people were anticipating that she would be nominated and be the first African American woman to receive that honor, and that didn't happen, and issues of diversity came up. And I was wondering, because I'm aware that the Academy has things like the Nickel Fellowship to encourage people who are trying to be screenwriters, and like the Student Academy Awards.
Right. Oh,
but I was
good.
wondering if there were mentorship programs and like fellowships directed at minorities or like women to
There
help
has
that
not
problem?
been specifically for either area. Doesn't mean there's not inclusion, but not specifically. But certainly this year, the conversation has really broadened, and we are looking at different ways of, again, educating people to opportunities and helping them get on their road to be filmmakers. And so it is at the top of the conversation list right now. And don't worry about Ava. Ava probably still will get to be the first African-American female director nominated, and probably pretty darn soon. Yeah, she's just fabulous. It's
Another
fabulous.
question?
Was just curious, we all have our favorites, our lists as far as movies. So just off the top of your head, what are some of your favorites of all time?
Well, the answer is Godfather 2, then Godfather 1, then
Not-
Apocalypse Now.
Not Godfather 3.
Oh, no. John and I both worked on Godfather 3. And then I love movies like Funny Face. When I was young, I loved Funny Face. Wasn't that fun? I loved The Bodyguard. To look like Whitney Houston, sing like Whitney Houston, get an Oscar like her character. Kevin Costner will take a bullet for me. I saw that movie twice in a 36-hour period. I loved it. I loved it. And so I was so happy when I got to work with Kevin on Untouchables.
We've got one more question right here.
Where's right here?
So I'm a bit torn.
Where
Right
are you?
here.
Where's it? Oh,
Yeah.
there you go. Okay,
Hi.
thank you.
So I'm a bit torn myself about this concept of campaigning for nominations and awards. I'm sure you've heard both sides. I'm just wondering if it is the healthiest for the film industry, campaigning for awards and nominations, and what movies might be overlooked because they just don't have the power and the force of someone like you who may be able to do just a brilliant job campaigning for a particular movie. So if you could comment on the idea of campaigning.
Well, we at the Academy, though, that I'm on this side of the fence, we don't like it at all. And we, every year, keep reviewing rules and regulations to try to tone it down. But we have absolutely no power, nor should we, over the commerce of companies. And many of the Academy, or I shouldn't say, let's say award season films, they're also in the marketplace, right? And so it's about getting bums in the seats, as we say, right? It's still about commerce. So we really can't have too much. We do have one rule, and that is once a film is nominated, that the companies cannot have parties and dinners and lunches and food and whatever, and invite Academy members. Okay? Now, those clever people like myself, that when that rule was, and I was on the other side, I would invite people, and the Academy would say, but they're Academy members. And I'd go, yeah, but they're also members of the DGA and BAFTA. And the Screen Actors Guild, because we're all clever little monkeys we are, figuring out every little way, because that's our job. I'm not sure it is bad for the film business. I think it's a little out of control, to be honest with you. We make every attempt in the world to have films that don't have those big budgets to be considered in the same way. And I have to say, in most cases, we do pretty well. Case in point, this year, Whiplash. Okay, I have to say that for me, I was so proud of our membership on Oscar night. I was so proud sitting there because Whiplash went away with the best editing, and the sound category, which is broken down into editing and mixing, won for editing. I was so proud of our membership because that takes skill and understanding of the craft to know. And it has nothing to do with the other 4 that were nominated, because they're all wonderful. But for our membership to actually vote that way, especially with the sound splitting between that and American Sniper, that was amazing.
And isn't it fair to say that a lot of the efforts to promote films for Oscar consideration center around getting members just to see the movie?
That is the goal. That is the essence of a campaign.
Yeah, and so, you know, yes, it's a shame for filmmakers who maybe don't have that apparatus in place, but think also of how it helps a lot of films that might be overlooked because they aren't big budget Hollywood films, but there's somebody out there who's egging members on, just see the movie, see the movie. And at the end of the day, it still comes down to the vote. And it's a secret ballot and people can vote whatever
And that's
they
where
want.
critics help quite a lot, because they see all movies. And so they recognize the talent of the smaller independent films. That gets our attention. And throughout the year, we screen movies at the Academy every weekend. Every weekend. So my goal always is not to wait till the end. I see them all year long.
That was a great question to end on, but we're not quite done yet. So stay in your seats.
Oh, yes, we are.
Because we're, you know, we are. I'm saying we're turning the program back over to Julia Goodfriend.
Thank you. Stay where you are. That's okay. Good job. Thank you so much. It's my pleasure to introduce Sam Scott, who is the chairman of the board, and the two of us. We make a kind of a terrific partnership here, and we had a great idea, and that is that Cheryl Boone Isaacs should receive the very coveted, in our view, Bryn Mawr Film Institute Silver Screen Inspiration Award. I just want to say a couple things. Now, Cheryl, this award, let me get out of the way of, out of your way here. This award is dedicated to truly significant contribution to the art, the craft, or the industry of movies. And you have certainly contributed very heavily in more than one of those categories. So it's a rare pleasure, though. You know, here we are, the power behind the most important award practically in the world, other than the Nobel Prize. And we are giving you an award, but you share it with Ben Kingsley for acting, with Steve Sable, who revolutionized NFL, and Robert Osborne, the MC extraordinaire.
Osborne, yeah.
And Sam, maybe you'd like to say a word.
Just briefly, I promise. First of all, thanks for coming, everybody. It's difficult for me to stand up here, as some of you may know, without asking who are the non-members here, and I'd love to have you join, but I promise you I won't do that tonight. Cheryl, I really want to thank you so much for coming to us, for sharing these wonderful stories, for relating to us that we are definitely in an industry that's in flux. And although it has an illustrious past, and you represent so much of that past, it has a wonderful future, and we're so grateful to have someone of your caliber in that position. So, on behalf of us, I understand that sort of within the industry, at least I've been reading it, they seem to refer to you as a CBI. Yes. So, on behalf of those of us at BMFI, I want to, it's a beautiful award. I promise you I'll clean the fingerprints off of it. But we really take this very seriously, and we're so proud of you and all that you've done, and we thank you very much for coming. Let's give her a hand.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This is wonderful. Yay.
Yes. Now we have a surprise guest who is coming to us from SAG-AFTRA, the Screen Actors Guild, Steve Lashinsky, who has something else to say before we part.
Well, I'm taller, so we have a taller award. I wanted to make sure we meet Deborah Karn, one of our members. Very quickly, thank you to you guys for letting us make the introduction. So on behalf of 160,000 actors, performers, and broadcasters of SAG-AFTRA, we're here to recognize the outstanding contributions of CBI to the film industry we all care so much about. Ms. Boone Isaacs has had success at every stage of your career and all along the way. Has been a friend of SAG-AFTRA. This presentation tonight is not only for what she has accomplished in her career, but to acknowledge the partnership she has with SAG-AFTRA in promoting film, preserving film history, most recently, which was discussed tonight through her work with the Academy Museum, particularly since the museum is neighbors with our SAG-AFTRA headquarters in Los Angeles, which we're very excited to support. And rumor has it runs a pretty good award show.
Yes, it does.
So on behalf of the members of the Philadelphia local, as well as SAG-AFTRA members around the country, thank you for all your work you do on behalf of all of us. Welcome to Pennsylvania, and congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Nice meeting you
Thank you very much.
both.
We're going to mail this to you.
Okay. You got it.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Now, before you leave, one of the things that I think the Academy does so brilliantly are their film montages. And as you just take a moment more to watch this wonderful Academy-based montage, Why We Love Film. And thank you all for coming. Thank you.